We are okay now.
Hello. Okay, so now can they hear me?
Yes.
Shalom. Sorry for the delay. What just happened? I'm sorry. I must have. I was trying to. Can you get me inside back again? I'm sorry. Okay, take two. Take two. Do you hear me? Hello. Shalom. Welcome. Good. This is our last in-person Shabbat here for the time being. I greet you well. Welcome. So we have 36. We hear you. Thank you. We have 36 computers here, and we have 30-something people more actually. 40. I don't know. We have people in Shul, we have people in Zoom. Welcome everyone. We're going to sort it right now. And as I said, this is the evening of Hanukkah and the Shabbat Miketz. And after this weekend, for a variety of reasons, we're going to retreat back to Zoom prayers until the 7th of the first weekend of January. So enjoy, and everything is happening. We were supposed to do a much bigger plan. As it comes, we're doing a bit more squeezed, minimized plan, but what we're keeping is the following. We have with us today guest from the Defend Our Democracy campaign who have launched the Anti-Corruption Week, and we have volunteers who put a stall here, and we have with us Reverend Mos Ntle, yeah. Who will come to bring greetings from the campaign later on. And we have the J Kids with us. So J Kids is for kids who are 4, 5 until 12, 13. Those who are a bit older can still join with Catherine and with Jody. And what we're going to do is we're going to light the candles. And there's several cameras more than usual. We spaced it so there won't be any COVID issue, hopefully. And what we're going to do is first we light the Hanukkah candles, then we light the Shabbat candles. So the first business of the day is Hanukkah protocol. And before we even go on, I'd like to to start with a melody, a tune called Al Hanisim on the Miracles. Al Hanisim on the Miracles. It's a video made by the World Union for Progressive Judaism, and two of our singers, Jessica and Lee, are partaking with that. So as an opening song, this is our opening song, Al Hanisim for the Miracles, World Union for Progressive Judaism. Let's watch it together. Good evening, welcome. Getting there. Sorry? Okay. Okay. We'll let it go. We'll try later on. Presume we watch Alan Nissim by the World Union Progressive Judaism with two of our own choristers singing in it. We're not going to put more time on that. And the next item on the agenda is to light the Hanukkah candles. So if you brought a Hanukkah, and even if not, please come and join us. Can I have the Bima camera over here? Come around. Yeah, there's even another one here. You can put forward. Yeah. Come. Bring the jacket from the piano. Oh, you think so? Okay. So what we're doing, we're going to light this candle, the Hanukkah candle. Yeah. Can we have the Bima one? This one and this one. Oh, okay. So that one. Okay, fine. No. Okay, then make the reader. Yeah. Okay. Ready? We are going to do it. Sing Mouse 2, and then Jessica will take the lead with Beit Emanuel. 2, 3, 1, and Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של חנוכה. אמן. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשה ניסים לאבותינו בימים ההם ובזמן הזה. ישועתי לך נאה לשבח תיכון בית תפילתי ושם נזבח ותכין מטבע מצב אז אגמור בשיר מזמור חנוכת המזבח. אז אגמור בשיר מזמור חנוכת המזבח. Go, Jessica. Thank you. You can take back your sit back. Can't hear her for whatever reason. Thanks, Caroline. Can we tell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero for whatever reason came to our aid. Wait, let's just do the Shabbat candles, okay? Come, you can actually do the candles themselves because Mickey is speaking. Good. Come. Can they hear us? We can hear them. Yeah, but we cannot hear them. Please, can you help? Okay. She's singing me and my leg for Israel. Who can sing the praise? Praise. Okay. Thank you. Wait. Okay, I move on. Russell. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. For whatever reason, we cannot hear you. I apologize.
Okay, but we can hear you speaking over the singers.
We can hear you speaking while I'm singing.
Okay, now we can hear you. So can you give a shortened version of the, I'm sorry, now we can hear you.
Oh, you want it again?
Yeah, exactly.
Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age, a hero, a sage came to our aid. Shema, Boyad Mimahem, Basban Magabi Moshiach in days gone by in the ancient land, brave Maccabees led the faithful band. Beit Emanuel, Torah Yisrael, Otan Mimne, Hen Bechodor Yaakov Magibor, Goel
Thanks, Jess. Thanks. It was worth waiting for to hear that. It's a sing of praise to the Maccabee, who is the chieftain of the people. Now we are moving to page 118. We're going to light the Shabbat to the Shabbat candle, which is on page 118. And last week we had a formal farewell from Mickey and Andrew, and this week is their last Shabbat here in South Africa. Rise, page 118. Jody will light the candles here, and Mickey at home. Can we have Mickey and the reader's camera? Mickey and Mickey.
Oh, hear my prayer, I sing to you. Be gracious to the ones we love, and bless them with goodness and mercy and peace. Oh, hear my prayer to you. Let us light these lights to see the way to you, and let us say Amen. Let us light these lights to see the way to you, and let us say Amen.
No, I see. This is the kind of service where everything will be like a sitcom style and full of. Do you need our lighter? Because we can.
Also moves the wick.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu lahadnik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, אשר קידישנו במצוותיו,
אשר קידשנו במצוותיו,
וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. Please be seated. Okay. So the J kids will take their leave to start the activity. They will be on the courtyard. The parents who would like to meet the kids later on, and I'll go visit them during the Baruch Hu, while Paul Mukasa will lead the service. Thank you and welcome again, everyone on the Zoom and here. We grew up. Now there's a good attendance here and here. Let us start this journey of the 6 sounds before the Lechadodi. We start on page 130. Our musician this evening is Rory and Jess. 130, Psalm 95. Come, let us sing joyously to God. Lechun Ranana, page 130, Psalm 95.
Lechon Ranana Ladonai, Lechon Ranana Ladonai, Ladonai, Ladonai. Naria letzor yeshenu, Naria letzor yeshenu, Yeshenu, Yeshenu. Nekadma fana betoda, nekadma fana betoda, betoda. Bismirot naria lo, bismirot naria lo. Narialo, Bismirot, Narialo.
Come, let us sing joyously to God. Raise a shout for our rock and deliverer. Let us come into God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For the Eternal One is a great God and great ruler of all divine beings. Page 132. Psalm 97, Adonai malach tagel haaretz, ismechu iyim rabim, anan va'arafel svivav, tzedek u'mishpat, nechon kis'o. Ohavei Adonai, sin u'ra, shomer nafshot chasidav, miad resheim yatzilam. Light is on for the righteous, radiance for the upright, or zarua latzadik. Bottom of 132, to you, Rory.
O zarua latzadik, Ul yishre lev simcha, O zarua latzadik, Ul yishre lev simcha, O zarua latzadik, Ul yishre lev simcha, Ul yishre lev simcha, O zarua latzadik, Ul yishre lev simcha, Ul yishre lev simcha. La 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 la
Okay. Thanks for your patience. I'm sorry, Rory, just for whatever reason, it doesn't sound so good at the moment. We have installed the new devices. The new mixer is here, so we're still learning how to use the new mixer. It just arrived this week.
If it's only me, Rabbi, maybe I must go on to a different device.
Maybe I'm not making these decisions. I'm the pastor.
Rory
But
sounds
Should
clear
consult
on
with
the
Russell on
line.
the chat.
Yeah, on
Rory
Zoom you
sounds
sound
clear
great.
with us.
Okay, guys, I didn't mean to start a discussion. I'm in the middle of the service. It's 6:27 and I'm leading a service. Discuss it with Russell on the chat. God, 135, Psalm 99. Attention, everyone, eyes to me. God enthroned on cherubim is sovereign. The people tremble and the earth quakes. God is great in Zion and exalted above all people. Their praising name is great and awesome. God is holy. Mighty ruler who loved justice. It was you who established equity, you who worked righteous judgment in Jacob. Exalt the eternal our God and bow down to God's footstool, for God is holy. Exalt the eternal our God and bow toward God's holy hill, for the eternal our God is holy. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu, the last verse in Hebrew 135.
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להקודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להקודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו.
Apologize, people. We're getting there. We're getting there. Sorry, just come through. Right. Sorry. Okay. May God grant strength to our people. May God grant our people peace. We are moving from the opening of the Psalms to the Lech Adodi, the chant that brings the Shabbat on page 138, 139. And whether we stood up or whether we have technical issues, it doesn't matter. Shabbat comes, and here we are. And today we're not only summarizing the Shabbat, we are summarizing this year of activity, which has been very intense. If you think where we've been, last Hanukkah, deep into the lockdown, and then we moved and we pushed and we mobilized and we transformed and we invested blood, sweat, and tears to reopen the shul, to reopen, to recongregate. Now we are retreating from congregating again. For the known reason, it's okay. Variant will come, variant will go. There's a saying, I don't know how to say it in Shona, there's a saying, the community will never die. The community will never die. We are here to prevail. We are here together. So these lights share the story of encouragement for us, that no matter what, we will, maybe not next week, but in weeks to come, regather here and rekindle the light. And the spark will go and ignite heart by heart, one heart at a time, until transformation will surely come. So for now, here we are together celebrating, the people on Zoom, the people in Shul. Welcome, and take a deep breath in and a deep breath out and say, Hashem, God, here I am. I am willing to sense the Shabbat. I need the rejuvenation of Shabbat. God, I'm here. Touch me with your Shabbat and let me be a vehicle for that, an instrument of that peace. In the word, 138, 139, take a deep breath, let's do it together.
שמור וזכור בדיבורך, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, שמו תפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי להתפתח. Please join. נשבת נקלה. לקראת שבת לכו
I'm rising and we're facing the door. Now is the moment when Shabbat is coming. Please be seated. Rory to you, Mizmor Shir. Psalm, a song for the Shabbat, 192.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך העליון, ולזמר לשמך העליון. להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי הסבא לנבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך העליון, ולזמר לשמך העליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בכל לך,
במעשה ידיך
מה גדלה מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך העליון, ולזמר לשמך העליון.
Good. Friends, Jess and Rory, because we are so much behind schedule and because I'm not hearing you so well, then I'm going to skip a little bit here and there, so just pay attention, okay? I apologize for that. What we're going to do now is we're going to move from the Kabbalat Shabbat to the Baruch Hu, to the evening service, which is to be found on page 146, and I'd like to invite Paul Mukasa from our management committee to come forward and take the lead for this element of the service, the Shema and its blessings. I'm going to visit the J Kids activity, and I'll be back in Amidah. We'll also do some abridged Amidah. But for the time being, page 146, Paul, please join me here. Baruch Hu et Adonai Vorach. Please rise for this moment.
Da
I think you'll unmute me. We're on page 148. I'll do the English version. Blessed are you, eternal our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, whose wisdom opens heaven's gates, whose understanding changes times and seasons, and who arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming day into night and distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Zevaot is your name. Ever-living God, may you reign over us into eternity. Blessed are you, eternal one, who brings on evening. Baruch atah Adonai Ariv Aravim. Page 150, we do Ahavat Olam. Glory to you.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, וכמו משפטים, אותנו לימדת, אותנו לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בסופנו, קומנו נשיח בחוקיך, ונשמח בדברי תורתך, ומצוותיך לעולם ועד. יהי חיינו ואורך ימינו, ובהם נגה יומם בלילה, נגה יומם בלילה, ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל.
We go to page 152 for the Shema. Again, Laurie, let's close our eyes. Then we can't hear Laurie. Russell, we can't hear Laurie.
Rory, you're on mute. Rory, you're on mute.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai, Adonai Echad. Oh, Baruch Shem Kavod, Shem Kavod, Malchuto Leolam, Leolam Vaed.
Go to page 154 for the Ve'ahavta. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavecha ubechol nafshecha ubechol me'odecha v'chayu hadevarim ha'eleh hashe anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shnantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha beveitecha uvelektecha v'derech uveshokbecha uvechumecha v'keshaltam leot al yadecha v'chayu letotafot bein einecha uketavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvish arecha. On page 155. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Israel, ve'amarta alechem ve'asu lachem tzitzit. Al kanfei vigdechem vedorotam, ve'natnu al kanaf Betil Techelet, Bechaya Lachem Bezitzit, Uritem Oto, Uzekartem, Et Kol Mitzvot Adonai, Ve'asitem Otam, Ve'lo Taturu Acharei Levavchem, Ve'acharei Einechem, Asher Atem Zonim Achareihem. Lema'an Tizkeru Ve'asitem, Et Kol Mitzvotai, V'chiyitem Kedoshem, Elohechem, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher Otzeti Etchem, Me Eretz Mitzrayim, Lichiot Lachem, Lelohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem. Amen. We go on page 157 on the top. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's feet. That wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt. That there is a better place, a promised land. That the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness. That there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. We go to page 158. Nechamocha, we go back to Jess.
Mi chamocha bo'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh. Excuse the accompaniment, it's out of tune. Mi chamocha bo'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nehedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef eleh, nora tehilot osef eleh.
That is said, God redeemed Jacob from a hand stronger than his own. Blessed are you, Eternal One, for redeeming Israel. Baruch Ata Adonai Ga'al Israel. I'll do the top on page 161 before we go to Hashkivenu on page 160. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Eternal One, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Blessed are you, Eternal One, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel and over Jerusalem. Baruch Ata Adonai, Haporei Sukkot, Shalom, Aleinu, Ve'al Kol, Amo Israel, Ve'al Jerusalem. We go to page 160 and we do Ashkivenu.
Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Haporei Sukkot Shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Upros aleinu sukat shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai haporeis sukat shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim, ve'al Yerushalayim, ve'al Yerushalayim. Amen.
Friends, I apologize, but it really doesn't sound good. And we have a shul full of people that can just not hear you properly. So also the time is a bit late, but also because we have an objective issues here with hearing you. I'm going by the powers invested in me just to skip straight to the sermon, because you just, Rory and Jesse, it doesn't do justice with your singing. We put some new equipment, and unfortunately we still haven't got it right. I know on Zoom it sounds fine, but we are some 50 people here who don't sound fine, you know. I'm sorry, you're not privileged. The Zoom people are not privileged over the people in shul. I'm not saying they're worth less, but at least they, you know, okay, anyhow, I'm just going to move to the sermon. I apologize. I apologize to all. Yeah, anyhow, it's 10 to 7, don't worry. It's like you got your fair share of singing, and I'm sorry it doesn't come right for those who are here. Good, friends, here we are. Defend our democracy and the anti-corruption week. We've got some posters here, and we got some people from the campaign joining with us. No, I know you meant no disrespect. It's okay. I'm responding to the chat as we speak. I know you meant no disrespect. All good. So we are in the support, Defend Our Democracy campaign, who have launched the support, let me do it again, people, anti-corruption week. And I thought what I can do to assist the anti-corruption week. So first, most of the activities had been moved, reduced in size, postponed because of the COVID situation. There was supposed to be a big rally on Sunday. It's not going to happen. We'll let you know when this rally is happening again. So having said that, there was a launch this morning, and I thought, what can I do to assist? And what I can do to assist is to give some background. First, us in Hanukkah. Hanukkah is a festival when you bring light. And we said, that's also the poster, the advert for this festival, for this festive evening, we said a little bit of the light chases away a lot of the darkness. A little bit of light can push away much of the darkness. And the second thing is the dream of liberty, the connection. What I can do is I can show the similarities between the situation here in South Africa today and the situation that prevailed at the days of Hanukkah, when people were fighting for their liberation against an external oppressor, because this is the true message of Hanukkah, that the one who rebels against oppressor is keeping his Lord's command. The fighting against oppressor is fighting for liberation is the word of God, because in Judaism you're supposed to bow to no one but God, and we do not acknowledge any earthly power which is not submitted to God. And instead of that reality, brave people stood up and fight, because there will always be brave people to stand for dignity, for honor, like these ancient Jews in the 2nd century, that all that is good we owe to them, for maintaining our cultural heritage back then in the 2nd century before Common Era. So I'm going to share with you some details from that time in history. And you know, they say the anvil, in Hebrew they say the anvil of the earth is one, the anvil. Which means that we cannot surprise ourselves. We're human beings, we're not going to surprise ourselves. We heard all the stories that we have to hear. I don't think there's a story that can surprise us. Human beings are human beings. Having said that, there is a value in coming back to these stories and repeating these stories. One, because those stories are not necessarily known today. It's been a long time, since the 2nd century. Two, the deeds of those human beings were great deeds. These are the deeds of our ancestors. Whether it's for the good or for the evil, they have influence. They had made huge influence. Those who were good deeds and those who were bad deeds. It says in Ecclesiastes, God shall bring every work into judgment and every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil. So, my beloved one, let me tell you about the house of Hashmonites, the house of the Maccabees, a reign, a kingdom, a story that can put to shame any HBO or Netflix series. And I'm going to squeeze it into a few moments, so I invite you to read about it more. 5 children Matithiyahu the elder had, those who were spark, ignited the rebellion. But before that, let me give you a little bit of background. What is it that we're talking about? Friends, the Jewish Bible ends in the Persian period. The last events that we hear about are the book of Daniel and the book of Esther. The book of Daniel, an advisor, a counselor to the kings, a minister that had lived during the times of King Cyrus, King Nebuchadnezzar, and King Belshazzar, and King Cyrus, and King Darius. And then later on, the book of Esther happens in the time of the King Xerxes. King Xerxes is the king who was fighting the Greeks on the Greek wars, on which Herodotus, the historian, is telling us. His campaigns from Persia into what tried to conquer Greek around minus 490, minus 480. So we have some kind of a point in history, I'm telling you. The Battle of Marathon, the Battle of Thermopylae, these great battles. Those who watch the movie 300, this is the person chap, that Xerxes. As the Persians are defeated, there is a growth in Hellenistic and Greek culture. Those are the great days of Athens. Under Pericles, the playwriters, the sculpture, the poets, the great development of Greek culture. Socrates died in minus 399. Socrates has a disciple named Plato. He died some 50 years later, and Plato has a disciple called Aristotle. And Aristotle, on his last decades, is invited to a not important northern Hellenistic kingdom called Macedonia. Macedonia is in the outskirts of Greek, not an important part. And because they were on the outskirts, they had to fight better. They had a better army. They came up with an idea called phalanx. It meant that all the warriors stand with the spears, and it's like a hedgehog of spears, and then they walk and nobody can stand before them, the phalanx. And he teaches the prince is called Alexander Mukdon. And this Alexander, he had many ideas. One of them says, I want to merge the East and the West. We stand here on the edge of, we need to bring together the East and the West. We'll create a cosmopolitan culture. We create a new culture with all the traditions evolve in that. And Aristotle tells him, I don't know, it sounds to me like it's not going to work. It sounds to me like too complicated idea. Why can't everyone have their own tradition? And Alexander is adamant. Then Aristotle dies, his father dies, King Philippus, and he launches his campaign to the east. And guess what? He wins. There's a famous battle, it's a year which is easy to remember, minus 333, the Battle of Issos. Alexander the Great is beating the Persian, it's Darius the king, Darius II, the king, the Persian king, and he inherited all the Persian Empire and the problems of the Persian Empire, and even pushes back until the Indus Valley, and he takes over all the known world until his time. And established cities such as Alexandria and others. And as for the Jews is absolutely not an important people at the time, but he gives them their autonomy to worship in Jerusalem according to their traditions. That's an important thing because we'll see that being violated later on. This is, my friends, the formative moment of the West. Up till that moment, all empires were leaning to the East. The Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians. This is the first time when there's power coming from the West. And not just power that wants your taxations and to govern. This power have an agenda, which is cultural agenda. Creating what today we call globalization, a global community. You can move from city to city, you can trade, everywhere you'll go, whatever city you come, you launch, you will see there will be a gymnasium, there will be a theater, there will be a temple to the Greek gods. Everything is the same. You could trade. Wherever you come, you could trade. That's the idea. This is the establishment of the West. There's even stories about Alexander coming to Africa. They bring to him vessels to eat, to drink of gold, but no food, no water. Just glass of wood of gold, plate of gold. He says, what is this? He said, well, you had bread and water where you came from. You came in for the gold, right? Take the gold and go away. We know why you came for the gold. He's like the archetype of the Western colonizer. Good. So he dies, and what happens? His empire collapses, and everyone are against everyone. And what it ends up to be that there are two main powers, like on the traditional setting: those who govern Egypt, the Ptolemies; those who govern Syria and Mesopotamia, the Seleucians. And they fight all the time, and they fight all the time. The years pass. Now, the year is 170 minus, still before Common Era. Before Common Era. When we move to Common Era, I'll tell you. 170. There's a chap, Antiochus IV, the king of the Seleucians, the fourth to his name, and he's having a campaign. He's like, I'm going to beat those Egyptians. I'm going to beat now these Egyptians. They are no longer Egyptians like you have in mind. They are Hellenistic people, Greek people, who are governing Egypt. They're not like pharaohs like they used to be, but they still carry the title pharaoh. So a new power comes, who had enough of that. This new power is called SPQR. SPQR, Senatus Populusque Romanum, the Senate and the people of Rome. They send a delegation, few soldiers and an ambassador. We have his name, Lentius Populus. He says to the king, the Senate and the people of Rome are discontent with your campaign. Kindly withdraw your forces. He's shocked. He says, maybe I can take 24 hours to deliberate. The Roman legate tells him, you can have 24 seconds maybe. Takes his staff, draw a line, and say, Mr. King, and you're not moving from this line until you give me an answer. And he has to withdraw. There's a new guy coming to the neighborhood, the Romans. Everything changes because they have become very affluent. Now, Antiochus IV had hired all this army, and this is an army of mercenaries. When you have mercenaries, you got to pay them. He starts to squeeze. He starts to squeeze for taxation. That's what's happening. And by the way, he says, I had enough of these Jews. They are disrespectful to me and to my tradition. They are disrespectful to my gods. They worship their own gods. What kind of a temple is that anyhow with no statue in that? Really, Judaism should be removed. This is an abomination. It's a primitive faith, and we should bring them enlightenment. We should bring them the culture. They should practice in the gymnasium, go to the theater, practice all the things that Greek culture was. Now, I want to say that of all the things, mainly the traditions of that ancient Near East were very perceptive to Hellenism. The ancient Philistines, for example, they were relatives of the Greeks. So it wasn't a big deal for them to call the temple instead of the temples of, Dagon, the person of Dagon for Sidon, to use the drachmas, to go to the gymnasium. It wasn't a big deal for them. For the Jews, it was a very big deal because it was against all their tendencies: homosexuality, nudity, theater, against the basic tendencies of the Jewish faith of the time. So once he says, okay, enough with that Judaism, now please, I want to see a pork on this altar, on Hashem altar. I'd like to see a pork slaughtered, a pig. I want to see you putting, sacrificing a pig on the altar, and no more circumcision. He crushes the people. Now, the people rise up, but those are, what you have to understand, those are popular militias, people coming from the field, from the behind the plow, to fight for the liberation. That's the feature of the rebellion. On one side, you have endless mercenaries. Whenever you finish some, you can hire more. On the other side, you have farmers who are coming from behind the plow to fight for the liberation of the land. So then there's 20 years of fighting. 20 years of fighting. I'll just give you the main thing. Okay, the main thing, the rebellion started in 167. The Chanukah, the dedication of the temple 3 years later, 164 minus. The dedication of the temple, when they come in and they clean the temple and they purify it and they rededicate it to Hashem. Chanukah means dedication in Hebrew. They rededicate the temple. That is what we celebrate on the festival of Chanukah. And so they have come into power. And the first generation, it's fine. Then Judah the Maccabees die in battle. Elazar the Maccabee died in battle against the elephants. This famous picture when he stabs the elephant. The big brother, Yochanan dies. The young brother, Jonathan dies. He's getting captured. The people are saying, you pay us a huge ransom, we'll give it to you back. Then all the people are giving their gold, their money, everything, and the villains, they take the money and they kill Jonathan. That happens in 142. And then the last brother, Simon Maccabees, he takes over. He's the last of the 5 children I was talking about. And he gets one. The Greeks are like, we fought enough, we spent a fortune on fighting you guys for 20 years and we lost it, and we're giving you, you'll be autonomous. You, Shimon, will be the high priest. One move. Second move is making a treaty with Rome. And that's always wise. Now he got the back of the Romans. Russell, there is whatever changing. Can you use some? Yeah. So he's getting recognitions of the Romans. So that's important. Is when the dynasty is kind of sitting, the rebellion is done, we're starting the story of the dynasty. So, my friends, why am I telling you all this? Not only because it's Hanukkah, but because also what happened is when they came to power, after some 20 years, they became 3 to 1. After they came to power, they became corrupted, right? How unsurprisingly. The first generation, the king John Hyrcanus say, actually, I know that my title is the high priest, but I would actually like to be also the king. I'd like to be high priest and king. John Hyrcanus, high priest and king. Doesn't it sound nice to you? And he takes this title of the king, and he's getting recognition to that. And the master sages on this phase come to him and say, sir, you're taking too much power to yourself. It's very much unhealthy that you will be also the high priest and the king. There's too much power and money going through you, and he dismisses them. And here starts the dispute between parties, which is the party which is going to be around the king, the court, Jerusalem, the temple, the priest. This party will be known as the Saducees versus the party of the master sages, which will become the leaders of the people, those who preserve the oral tradition of the Torah, and those who will be more close to the popular elements, to the villagers, to the farmers, the people who are not priests, this will be the Pharisees. I know that those who come from Christian perspective, Pharisees have bad reputation in the New Testament, but the reality is that they have been the teachers, those who are more close to the people, the master sages. And I'll tell you why. The Sadducees, based on priesthood, you are born a priest or not born a priest. Everyone can study and become a master sage. Everyone. Look at Rabbi Akiva, he was a shepherd until the age of 40. Good, let's go back then to let me go a bit with the time. I spoke about John Hyrcanus. Civil war, brother killing brother, brother fighting against brother. Finally, the big kings, the major king of the dynasty was called Alexander Yanneus. And his wife, Salome, Shlom Tzion. Alexander Yanneus died in the year 76, still before Common Era. 76, he leaves a kingdom bigger than the state of Israel today, well consolidated, well managed, well administrative, with Greek culture everywhere, theaters, gymnasiums, Greek language everywhere. And he's the king and the high priest. How does he live with those contradictions? I don't know, we all live with contradictions, right? Life is full of contradictions. Then he's died. Oh, and last thing, this is like the end of the first season that you will meet in the second season. He is expanding the kingdom. Wherever he comes, they do what Jews never done before since then and never done before after then. Before that and after that. He's doing forced conversion. The first time in history and the only time in history when they've done forced conversion is capturing, for example, this example, the Edomian. Now you are under Jewish regime. You all got to become Jews. Line up, all the men, circumcision, line up. Line up. Okay. Then he's dying. His wife tells him, you leave me, how I can be a queen? I'm just a woman, what do I know? How can I manage between the Pharisees and the Sadducees? He looked at her from his deathbed and he tells her, do not fear the Pharisees, nor the Pharisees, nor the Sadducees. Fear those who are hypocrite. Good advice to life. Fear only those who are hypocrite. And he dies. She reigns another 5-6 years after him. And Salome, Alexandra Salome, she is the greatest queen that the Jews have ever had. Google her, Queen Alexandra Salome. She's like the Queen Elizabeth of the Jews, the one ever queen we had, which was wow. She maneuvered everyone, she manipulated everyone, we're in love with her, she governed, she really. But then she dies as things are, and again, immediately collapse into civil war, one brother against another brother, this one gets army, that brother gets army, a lot of fighting, a lot of turmoil and suffering for all. Until what happens is that in the year 63, again still before Common Era, Pompeius the Great comes. You remember him as the big rival of Caesar. Pompeius the Great against Caesar. He comes and is like, all this area is now belong to the Romans, and I'll tell you how we're going to manage it. We will have kings, or governors, or both, because we cannot really trust you. So we will appoint a king from our behalf, and there will still be a governor who makes sure that the king stands in line. The king needs to make sure that the Jews are in line, and the governor, the commissioner, make sure that the king is in line. So Pontius Pilatus, for example, he was the fifth. He was the fifth of a line of these governors, protectorates. There were some 50 of them until Rome turns to become Byzantium. Okay. I'm not going to go much further. Let me tell you that this dynasty has two parts. It has before Herod and after Herod. Herod the Great. Remember I told you about the forced conversion of the Edomians. One of these people is kind of making his way to the top. Herod, then he's marrying the last of the princess, Prince Mariam, and then he kills her, he kills her brother, he kills her children. He's totally mad, King Herod. But this is not yet the end of the dynasty. The dynasty survives another 100 years later, no, a bit less, 80 years later, when the last of them is King Agrippas II and his sister Bernice. If you remember in Acts, the book of Acts, chapter 25, 26, so Paul is being brought to trial. And then he says, I am a Roman citizen, I insist to be brought to the emperor for my trial. And then the poor governor, he doesn't know what to do with it. It's called Festus, Governor Festus. He doesn't know what to do with it. So he asked the king and queen, which are brothers and sisters at that phase, Agrippas and Bernice, to give him an advice. And they say, well, this man, it doesn't sound to us like he done something bad. But if he wants to be judged in front of the emperor in Rome, he can go to Rome and be judged. So that's where we meet them. It just gives you a very clear understanding of the timeline, because they lived on the time of Paul, just after the decade and so after the death of Jesus. They are the brother and sister, the last of their dynasty. They die. It's terrible because he tries to stop the rebellion. This last king, Agrippas II, he doesn't make it. There's too much fundamentalism. People are too zeal to listen to him as a reasonable man. He was a good king. Him and his father, Agrippas I, were good kings. And he dies, him and his sister, alone on the fortress, very lonely. And the people are like, we had enough of you Hasmonetes. You are the last of your species. You're going to die. And that's the end of the dynasty. And I was giving a very short summary, as a lot of corruption, plot, manipulation, death, power, money, and sex. All that involved. Why am I telling you all these stories? First, because these are part of the stories of this dynasty that we celebrate its establishment in rebellion. But I want to share with you the ethical lesson. And the ethical lesson is brought by Josephus, the great historian, Josephus. He brings it in Antiquities of the Jews, his big book, Antiquities of the Jews. It's book 18, chapter 5, verse 3, lines 127, 128, and he's telling the following, I quote, "It is now in my mind to describe to you Herod and his family and how he fared with them, partly because it is suitable for the history I speak about this matter, but partly because this thing is a demonstration of the interposition of the providence, how the divine providence is above all, and how a multitude of children, if of no advantage, no more than any other strength than mankind, set their hearts upon, beside those acts of piety which are done towards God. For it happened that, within a revolution of 100 years, the posterity of Herod, which were great and many in number, were expiating a few, utterly destroyed. One may well apply this to the instruction of mankind and learn how unhappy they were. It will also show us the history, and as were worthy, as much as they were worthy of admiration, so was them beyond all expectation, those who knew them, advanced in great power and authority. And I've said something about it, and I shall also speak to you on these great people again." He says, Josephus, let me summarize what he says. He says, I'm not bringing it only, I'm bringing it because that's the relevant history I'm sharing with you about this dynasty, when he talks about the antiquity of the Jews, and this is the time. And he says, but also there is a moral here about it. When you do the wrong things, when you invest on the wrong avenues, this is what you're going to, you reap what you sow. If you walk in a corrupted ways, this is what you're going to harvest. There's no other way. There's no other expectation. I mean, if you have other expectation, you are wrong about it. if what you reap is corruption, that is what you sow. And I guess we are living very different times, the Near East and Judea of the time of minus 164 until the first century, until the death of Paul, and that time, very different from South Africa in the 21st century, but humans being are human beings. We are not that different than the human beings who lived back then. And let me tell you something on the political level. On the scope of 3,000 years of Jewish existence, we had independence for 3 times. One at the times of the kingdom of David, the house of David during the days of the Bible. This is an independence that lasted some 400 years. The second time, during the time of the Hashmonite dynasty, let's say until King Herod came and finished the thing, some 80, 90 years of independence, of a strong dynasty, then another 50 years of decline. And then in 1948 until today, the third statehood of the Jews, the current state of Israel. On the big picture of things, Jews have very, very little been independent in their lives as a nation. But if you choose to be independent, then you have to run it. Run your statehood with accordance to a lawful and orderly manner. If what you're going to do is you're going to imply corruption because that's how you feel like, and before you're full of desire to power, and that's how it's going to look. If there's one history lesson that this history teaches us, the history of this great dynasty of our people, this is the history of something which started with the purest of intention, with a rebellion against oppressor, and ended up as the wars of oppressors themselves, and as buying into the culture they actually rebelled against. So with that, I can put an end to that sermon. It was a rather informative one, and I'm saying again, defend our democracy campaign, support, we are mobilizing support Anti-Corruption Week, support Anti-Corruption Week, and I'd like to invite Reverend Mosentela to bring us greetings on behalf of the campaign. Reverend, he is a member of the steering committee of the board of the Defend Our Democracy, and I thank you for being here. Come here. Look both to the camera and to the people, and you can take off your mask. Thank you.
Should I have 1 hour?
What?
Did you say I have 1 hour?
Speak as much as you want. There's food on the other side. So.
Good evening. It's such a delight for us to be hosted this evening in such a beautiful manner. We are delighted, Rabbi Shaket, for your hospitality. My name is Mohsen Tar. I'm a reverend. Our parish is back out in the West Rand, in a little town called Randfontein. And so it's a delight for me to have experienced the beautiful the sermon that we've just had now, and the way that the history has been so dramatized, and I could see the connections between where we are as a country, as a society today, and we're just ever so thankful for that sermon. I bring greetings from the Defend Our Democracy campaign. It's a campaign that was launched earlier this year. It's a campaign that comes as a consequence of what had begun to happen in our country, where we had seen unprecedented levels of corruption, which became known as state capture. We had never had something called state capture. We knew about robbery, we knew about corruption, we knew about abuse of power, but when an entire state was captured and repurposed for other ends in a direct way that undermines the constitution, that undermines the dream that South Africans had back in 1994 when Nelson Mandela took his oath of office. And that undermines our constitution in the sense of the equality of all people before the law. And all of these were undermined in dramatic ways through state capture. And we, as defend our democracy, began to realize that unless the people themselves, and this is why today is such an important evening for us, when the people themselves begin to rise up to defend their democracy, we believe that victory is inevitable. And the fact that we're standing today in the synagogue with people of faith tells us that the campaign is not only a popular campaign where people who are outside of faith participate. Indeed, there are many that are outside of the faith, that are atheists, or people who are in the labor movement, people who are in civic organizations, people in the academy, people who are in different spheres of influence in the arts and so forth and so on. But today, it just is such a heartening thing to be doing this in this evening service of the people of faith, of a faith that is an ancient faith that has been there, seen that has seen the experiences, glorious seasons such as the times that were referred to by the rabbi in the dynasty of David, but also the corruption that ensues as people began to play with power in ways that corrupt them. And so we believe that together, and this is our appeal in this week, from the 3rd to the 10th, as defend of democracy, as defend our democracy, we pioneered this week as a way of calling attention to all South Africans of the need for joining the effort to defeat corruption. We believe that it is not enough simply to call on the state to say you are corrupt. It is not enough to call upon the president to say that you are corrupt and that you must desist from doing what you do. But we believe that every South African ought to conscientiously take that choice and become an active combatant in the war against graft, against corruption. I work in the townships a lot, and it's very often the case that ordinary people in the community themselves actually internalize those tendencies, for example, not to pay their rates, not to do those things that only they can do in order to build a South Africa that thrives, that flourishes, by withholding those commitments that they should actually do. And so for that reason, we believe that everyone, if everyone contributes in this effort, we believe that all of us can then look forward to a dream coming true, a dream of a just, prospering society in which all are equal before the law. We believe that this day, this week, is an important one. So if you, in whatever sphere of influence you operate, whether you're a businessman, whether you are a student, whether you are in any capacity where you do see or smell that there is a sense of corruption going on, we really invite you to blow the whistle, call the hotline of the Special Investigation Unit, who will be able to take up these issues. Corruption is unfortunately so rampant in our society that unless all of us put our minds and our efforts together, we're not going to be able to succeed. So for the rest of this week, we really ask that you continue to stand with us and help us. On the 9th of December is an international anti-corruption day where globally the same issue is highlighted. It all goes to show that it is not a South African problem, it is a global problem at this point. It's not only global in the sense of this moment in history, it is historic. The rabbi just showed us that it has been there for millennia, and we're not, unable to escape those tendencies in our own day. But as a people together, we believe that we can defend this democracy, defend this institution, build them up, so that what happens in July, for example, this last July, we saw an attempted insurrection by those people who really would like to undermine and make this democracy to be unworkable. But it has been thankfully defeated by people up in different communities to say it will not happen in our watch, it will not happen in our neighborhood. And so that spirit is one that heartens us. And so we believe that as people of faith, we have a lot to contribute in that area. Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you for your message. Thank you, Reverend, for your message. So did you understand there is an International Day against corruption, but we in South Africa, we thought we might need a week to deal with our issues. So we extended it to a week. Yeah, it's not funny, you're right, it's not funny. Good. Please Google it, please check it out. We'll send you any information we have. Again, plan has been changed, and thank you for the team who have come here to support. And there's a store with materials, with literature of both the Defend Our Democracy and the Katrada Foundation. Please come and check out and put your name if you want to get details. Good. It's 7:30. It's time to conclude. I'm sorry, today's service was a bit long and complicated. I'd like to invite Marion Joseph to read for us the list, the names of the Kaddish, and I'm honored to have you with us tonight. Thank you. Thank you for coming. Berik, we're done in a minute. We're done in a minute.
In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love we are comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. And tonight we mourn with Noel, Jeff, and Philip Williams on the passing of Professor Michael Williams on Thursday. Long life to Noel and Jeff, who are with us tonight here. We mourn also with the family of the late Tamlin Kim Banji Shishla, a former member who passed away on Wednesday. Her funeral service took place today at West Park. And we also think of Isabel Feenberg, mother of David Feenberg, Julius Galvin, father of Larry Galvin, Jeffrey Midlane Sr., remembered by Arlene Midlane, Joy Ovens, mother of Wendy Kaminsky Ovens. May their memory be for blessing.
Thank you, Marion. And again, Jeff and Mill, we wish you long life and thanks for being with us. I've done Tamili Shishler's funeral earlier this morning. She was a dear lady. And overall, we lost 13 people this year. 13 people. Yeah. Please rise. The Kaddish prayer of memories on page 598. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דיברא חירותי והמליך מלכותי, בחייכון ובימיכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעלם לעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירם בעלמא ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום ממרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל בני אדם ואמרו אמן. Good. Please be seated. Please be seated. Do we have announcements for Mencom? I don't think so. Tomorrow morning we'll be having Shabbat morning service with Temple Israel. It will be mainly online on Zoom. I will be here, and the few and the brave who would like to be here with me, they can come here with me, but mainly on Zoom. We will acknowledge all the sandwich maker and all those who contributed and all those volunteers in the Sami projects in Thursday. And then tomorrow, 6 o'clock, we'll be having the, again, online, a youth activity when I'll be screening my documentary and we can talk about it. So this is the first of a program that will touch identities, question of identity. I just said that I could assist with opening it. And if you want to, whether you're youth or whether you're families of the youth, if you'd like to come and see the documentary of who I was when I was in Israel, it seems to me like somebody from another era, from another life, when I look at this footage, then please join us tomorrow, 6 o'clock. All details are there. And this is Hanukkah, and please celebrate this weekend. Russell, do you think we can have the sim now? No, okay. So, so if that's the case, it's now 35 minutes past 7. I don't want to check again because do you think we will hear them now? If Jess or Rory will sing, do you think we will hear them now? Okay, then let's try. Jess, can you give the last song? Sorry? Can you give, well, actually said it will be can you give Shalom Aleichem or Enke Eloheinu? Or Adon Olam, but one of the dynamic ones.
I thought it was going to be Ma'oz Tzur.
Okay, we cannot screen the video for whatever reason. Can you play Ma'oz Tzur?
So I'll sing it instead if I can find it.
Okay, then never mind. Can you or can you not?
I'm sorry, I can't find it.
Okay, then never mind. Let's just conclude the service. Okay, it was a bit squeezed. I apologize, but here we are. Shabbat Shalom and welcome all. And please join us in the service. And for those of you at home, Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. I hope you're going to light your candles now and have a nice dinner. Please join me tomorrow 9:30 for the morning service. And God bless you all. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom,
Shabbat Shalom.
everyone.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Take a picture here as long as the candle burns. Can you take a picture for us as long as the candles are burning?
Between you.
Nice to see the show. What's going on there?
Yeah, that worked. That was one of the technical things that did work.
But we can only see that the two aisles, or the one aisle. But still, better than nothing.